Hi, my name is Emily Kramer and I would like to make a presentation of my chosen excerpt of the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet from 1597, written by William Shakespeare. In this presentation, I would like to start out with a brief summary of the chosen excerpt and a plot overview, moving on to my analytical points, and at the end I will sum up my main points. So what had happened before my chosen excerpt is that Romeo and Juliet's families, the Capulets and the Montagues, have had a huge feud, which stretched over many years, and Romeo hoped to see Juliet again after falling in love with her at first sight during the Capulets' masquerade ball, and Romeo's friends are aware that he has met and fallen in love with a Capulet named Juliet, and Romeo he hides behind the orchard wall and Benvolio persuades Mercutio to leave the scene. And right after the chosen excerpt, Act 2, Scene 2, Romeo goes directly to Fra Lawrence, and Romeo tells him of his romance with Juliet and asks the friar to marry them the same day. And the friar is concerned with him falling in love too fast, but he agrees to help the couple in hope that the marriage might reduce the feud between the two families. Moving on to my analytical points, it is clear to see that Act 2, Scene 2 takes place at nighttime in the Garden of the Capulets by the orchard wall, and Romeo he stands in the shadow beneath Juliet's bedroom window in the Garden of the Capulets, and Juliet appears on the balcony, thinking she's alone, and she reveals her love for Romeo in a soliloquy. And also, she is frustrated over the feud between Romeo and Juliet's families. And after Juliet's soliloquy, they both confess their love to each other and agree to marry in the morning. And in this act, Shakespeare uses contrast with light and dark imagery in this particular scene to describe the blossoming of Romeo and Juliet's romance. And as Romeo appears in the Garden of the Capulets and sees Juliet standing on the balcony, he compares Juliet to the sun, which can be seen in the following text passage on page 53, line 3 to 4, where it says, Juliet is the sun, arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale with grief. So in this passage, Romeo speaks in a metaphor by saying that Juliet is the sun. He speaks about Juliet being bright and shining. And in this text passage, he also asks the sun to rise and kill the envious moon, which can be connected to his previous love, Rosaline, because Romeo had always compared Rosaline to the moon, and now his love for Juliet outdoes the moon. So by this we can describe Juliet as a young woman with a rationalistic view, which can be seen in the following text passage on page 57, line 102 to 104, where it says, I should have been more strange, I must confess, but that thou overheardst was where my true love passion. So in this passage, Juliet thinks that she should have been more reserved towards Romeo because it is not sensible for a young woman to fall in love with a man so fast, especially not with a Montague. And also Juliet is very traditional, as her father has planned that she marry the prince. And Juliet is also aware of the naivety of their love. And it seems fair to say that Romeo and Juliet stand in contrast to each other, where Juliet is more rational thinking and traditional. Romeo, he is the exact opposite. Romeo is a strong individualistic and modern man, and Romeo he is daring because he climbs up the orchard wall to be in the Garden of the Capulets, where he could have been killed if somebody found out. And generally, Romeo, he's very spontaneous and he is driven by passion, and throughout the whole play he makes spontaneous decisions as he falls in love with Juliet to a party where he's supposed to meet Rosalie. And also he's driven by passion because his passion for his passion is his love for Juliet, and he will do whatever it takes to be together with his love. And he does not care about her being a Capulet, and he goes against his own family, which can be seen in a text passage on page 55, line 53 to 56, where it says, "By a name I know not how to tell thee who I am. My name, dear saint, is hateful to myself, because it is an enemy to thee. Had I it written, I would tear the world." So here he does not know how to tell her he is a Montague and he hates his name, but he is willing to give up his own last name and therefore his ancestry to be together with his love, Juliet. And besides all of that, Shakespearean plays contain the chain of being, which is a strict hierarchical structure that divides people into social classes, which can be seen in their language. And the chain starts with God and progresses downwards to the angels and kings and humans and wild animals and trees and plants and stones at the bottom. And in addition to this, Romeo and Juliet speak in blank verse, and an example of them speaking in blank verse can be seen in the text passage on page 53, line 10 to 11, where it says, "It is my lady, oh, it is my love, oh, that she knew she were." So here we see Romeo speaking in blank verse in iambic pentameter, which can be connected to Romeo and Juliet being higher up in the hierarchy, in the chain of being. Also, they speak in blank verse as they are higher up in the chain of being, whereas humans who do not speak in rhyming couplets or pentameter, they are lower in rank. And also, the play of Romeo and Juliet belongs to the period of the Renaissance, which lasted from 1500 to 1660. Shakespeare is a Renaissance writer because in the play Romeo and Juliet we see a new view on marriage and a strong focus on individuals' role in society, which is one of the main themes in the play. And the concept of individualism is an aspect of the Renaissance that is central to understanding the determination that Romeo and Juliet display in their first romantic and then their tragic relationship. And they listen to their own feelings instead of their parents, which is very untraditional at that time. And also there's a strong focus on the present life, and everyone has the ability to shape their own destiny. And the Renaissance can be connected to the chain of being, as it is an idea of how society was organized in status, and the chain of being is very relevant as it makes sure that everyone knows their place in society. And to sum up the main points, love and individualism are the main themes of this chosen excerpt of Romeo and Juliet, and the so-called balcony scene is very central in the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet to understand their forbidden love to each other and how they reveal the love and plan to get married. And they have fallen in love and are willing to give up their ancestry to live happily in the entire life.